Any time for another Crash game? Because this was going to be no problem to do. This one's going to be quite short. Probably even shorter than Wrath of Cortex was. Wrath of Cortex was already really short. But this one's probably going to be shorter, because, I mean, this is just a shorter game. Because Wrath of Cortex has, obviously, longer levels, because a console can have more expansive levels than a Game Boy. And it had 5 warps, whereas this only has 4. This game actually feels like it's probably not going to be much of a problem to play with a control stick, because I used to play this game with a control stick. I think like 2014, I used to run this game with a third-party Xbox 360 controller. Using a control stick is nothing new to me for this game. I really shouldn't have gone for that. I really don't need it. But yeah, this is a game that, if I wasn't already familiar with it, it could be kind of tricky, specifically for one level in World 3, but I shouldn't struggle too much on it. I mean, maybe like some things could trip me up for sure, but there's nothing that's gonna be so difficult that I think it's gonna be too much of a problem. Probably shouldn't really try and play this too safe. Probably be kind of fun to just pretend like I am speedrunning it. See what kind of time I get compared to my PB. I don't even remember what my PB is. It was like a 40 something, I think. Yeah, really the only parts of this game that aren't going to be very fun to do is just going to be water levels and auto-scrollers. I mean, it's kind of an auto-scroller, but I didn't mean these sections. There's a really tricky one of these later in the game, but it's not too bad. It's just there are like 2-minute auto-scrollers that are really boring throughout the game. There's one in each warp except for warp 1, I think, so we're good for a bit, but definitely are levels I'm not looking forward to in this game. And probably there's more levels I'm not looking forward to compared to Wrath of Cortex. Wrath of Cortex is really just the beginning of Droid Void and Coral Canyon that I really was dreading doing, but this game has 3 auto-scrollers I don't want to do. But going into, what's this level? Just in Slime. Going into without 2 Aku Akus is pretty annoying. But I just really don't know the movement in Frostbite Cavern enough to make sure I'm going to get out with 2 Aku Akus. Which that's really the thing I need to learn in this game is better movement. I knew better movement for a lot of the levels. Then there'd be just a lot of time save, probably. Guess you really do only need to enter this level with one Aku Aku since they give you one. I must have done some movement wrong in Justin Slime. I think you're supposed to, if playing optimally, I think you would enter this fight with 2 Aku Akus, and you would damage boost through it. I'm probably not going to do the damage boost, because it's not going to save that much time, and having 1 Aku Aku for the next level could, at least for the purpose of just beating the game as quickly as possible, without having to worry about, like, not trying to get the fastest time possible, but just beating the game as quickly as possible. I think I don't have to play necessarily optimally everywhere. I just need to make sure that I'm not spending too long on a section because I am playing risky, you know? Like, obviously, I'd want to save as much time as I can if I died on the next... If I was doing a speedrun, I'd want to save as much time as I can on Dingo Dial, and if I died in this level, I'd just reset. But I'm not doing a speedrun. I'm just trying to beat the game as fast as I can. So I would rather make sure I don't die on this level. Because if that would have been really good if I could have gotten 3 Aku Akus right there. But of course I ran into an electric fence, so I guess it doesn't matter because I got 3 of them here. That's always one of the scariest parts in a run, I think, is trying to make sure you don't hit that bonus, because that's just going to take so much time. Especially because the best way to get out of the bonus is to die. But that one's a very vertical one, so you'd have to fall for quite a bit. Unless if there's like a Nitro or a TNT super early on you could die to, but I had 2 Aku Akus, so that wasn't going to happen. But yeah, it's these auto-scrollers that I am not quite looking forward to. I don't know if there's anything that like speeds up or slows down anything in this level. I always just go for the boxes because that kind of tells me how close I am to finishing the level. If I got most of the boxes, then I know the level's not that much longer, but if I've only gotten like 20 out of 37, then I know there's still a bit of a level left to go. And getting some extra lives will be good too. I'm not too worried about a game over in this game like I was with Mario World or Mario Land. Because a game over, I think all that's going to do is just make me restart the level. and not start from the checkpoint. And I don't think it's going to be quite as likely that I could game over in this game as with Super Mario Land, because it's just kind of an easier game. And I'm just so familiar with this game that it probably won't be a problem. I mean, there's a couple levels, so like maybe the third snow level could be an issue. Some of the final few levels could be an issue, but for the most part, nothing should be too bad. I don't know if actually getting the gem in any percent actually has any impact on time. Because in Wrath of Cortex it would. If you, like in Avalanche, if you got the secret gem in that level, which would be easy to just kind of autopilot and do, because you just go through all the solemn gates, that would lose time, because you would have to watch him bring out the gem, but there's no animation for it in this game, so unless there's like something in the background going on, I don't know if getting the gem actually loses time or not. Like, I don't know if maybe the end of the level takes like slightly longer to load if you get the gem, but it doesn't, it's nothing noticeable at least, but I don't know. I think if I were to actually do an any percent run, I probably would purposefully try to avoid it just in case, but it probably doesn't affect anything. I can't believe I just did that. Yeah, I think it's slightly faster to bounce on those boxes instead of just climbing straight on, but I didn't realize that because I had invincibility, he was just going to fall through. I remembered that in Tsunami, in Wrath Cortex, but didn't remember it here. That's a shame, because this is the part of the level that you really want Aku Aku's for. Because for some reason it's always these sewer levels where it's really good to damage boost through cycles. I don't know that many other levels have something like that. Well, I guess it's not Ruined, is it? It's, I think the second jungle level has something like that. Where you damage boost through a bunch of TNTs. I probably will just grab all the checkpoints in these water levels. I may not need them, but I'll play it safe and just grab them. I don't know that I ever quite got to that point in an actual run where I felt comfortable enough to not have to grab the checkpoints outside of the first water level, but I'm sure none of these water levels would be that hard to really... Oh, it is Ruined. That was the level I was thinking of. but none of the water levels should be too hard where if I really learn them, I would ever have to worry about checkpoints. And for some, I probably don't. Like that water level I just did, I didn't need any of the checkpoints. I didn't even come close to dying. But sometimes it's just hard to shake playing it safe, you know? Like I could spend a second getting this checkpoint and making sure I don't have to reset. Whereas the alternative is don't grab the checkpoint to maybe save a second, but if I die, I have to reset. So obviously I should, in a speedrun, I should be going for the fastest time I can get, which would mean not playing safe, because, I mean, a death's probably going to kill the run anyway. So what's the point in playing safe? But I don't know. I think I'm just gonna keep the Aku Aku. Even though, again, in an actual run, I would have just done the damage boost. That's another level that I find can be kind of annoying sometimes. Not really difficult, just when I don't like playing. Engine's also a fight that I feel like if I came back to running this game would have just a bunch of time save. I probably have never been doing engine optimally. Especially since this was such an early game I ran. I think I started, like the first game I ever started to try and run was Mega Man X. The second was this game. But the first game I ever actually finished a run of was Pac-Man World 2. But I started this game first. And definitely back in those days, I wasn't big on like actually learning strats. I was more of just winging it. Which really for this game especially, really I think hurt me in the long run. Because I got so used to my movement that it becomes really hard to try and learn someone else's movement. You know, even if that movement's faster, I'm just still going to be so used to doing my own movement. Alright, it's definitely another section that I would prefer to have two Aku Akus going into, but oh well. But yeah, if you don't know this level very well, this is like legit the hardest level in the game because this section is so stupid. This level was the reason that this was not the first run of a game I ever completed. I gave up on this game for a while because of this level. Which when you learn the level and you have two Aku Akus, it's not that hard to do, really. But yeah, if you don't know this level, this is a nightmare to deal with. Yeah, another level I'm not looking forward to in this game is the last space level, I think, because there's just one cycle that's just really annoying. But the first two space levels aren't too bad. Would be another thing to probably look into. I play it so safe with the double jumps. I try and double jump wherever possible, because obviously that gives me a better chance of jumping over the gap. But if there are gaps that you can clear with a single jump, I need to be doing that. Obviously not for this playthrough. This is just theoretical. Oops. If I were to come back to speedrunning this game, which I'd like to, but not right now. This is... my priority right now is this challenge. Because obviously this is a year-long challenge. And it's day 3, so... it's gonna be quite a while before I really think about kind of coming back to speedrunning and exactly what I want to do with it. It's not saying I won't do any speedrunning stuff during this year, but I might. I knew there was something down there that was going to kill me, but I didn't know exactly what it was. This level can be a little annoying sometimes. Especially if you miss the crystal. You have to do something weird to try and get it again. But I mean, luckily you can get it again. You're not screwed out of getting it if you don't grab it the first time. Because if you did miss it, I think you can... or no, I think... no? How? There's a way you can get back up here. I don't know. I think you can get back up there at least. Oh boy, another auto-scroller. I guess this would be another time to think about more games to do. Look, there's only 2 more auto-scrollers left here. But as far as Game Boy Advance goes, because Game Boy Advance, there's so many different options. Super Mario Advance is probably the version of Mario 2 I'm gonna do. Because if I do that version, then game over is not going to do much because you can save in that version of the game. And that's the version of the game I'm familiar with, as opposed to the All-Stars version on the SNES, which I think would be kind of the same. But that's going to be really short. Probably shorter than this game is, honestly. It depends on how quickly I can do it. I might struggle a little bit on the final level, but I don't know. Again, I think that is just me thinking about how I used to think of Mario Advance when I would struggle with those final levels, but I don't think I would really struggle with it now. Especially using the warps so I can skip World 6. So I don't have to do that bird level. That'd be really good. That's going to be a short one. I'll need to see if there's a way I can do WarioWare without deleting my current data. Because I've 100%ed the original WarioWare. I don't want to delete my save data. But that's a short game if I don't do that. That's like an hour maybe. Maybe a little more. Depends on if I first try Wario. Mario Party Advance is one that I'm wondering how quick that would be, because it seems like on one hand it could be somewhat short, but it also seems like it could be long. Most of Mario Party Advance is just RNG. Just get a bunch of good RNG. But I don't know, that's one of those games where I feel like if you know the solutions to all the puzzles, it's not that long of a game. The question is, how long would it actually be? Because it's not a short game, really. And I don't think even knowing all the solutions, I don't think that makes it that short of a game. But I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be too long, but that's more of a maybe at some point I'll do it, maybe not. But definitely looking into kind of... Why did that push me? I didn't even know it did that. We're looking into more like falling block puzzle games or board game games or card game games, and kind of seeing what those are like to beat. The Game Boy Advance could just be where we spend the majority of time on this challenge, because there could just be so many short ones. Like, again, Candyland Chutes and Ladders Memory, that collection. I mean, definition of beating that game's got to just be beat all the board games. Those board games are purely RNG, so it's just be get lucky once on Candyland, get lucky once on Chutes and Ladders, and do good on Memory. Which obviously Memory is a pretty easy game in general. Whereas I don't know about some of those other GBA board game collections. Like Yahtzee Payday, I don't know if I would do. Life wouldn't be too bad. Yahtzee wouldn't be too bad. Yahtzee's pretty much mostly RNG. Life's a lot of RNG. It's just, I don't know how to play Payday. I've never known how to play Payday. I don't know that I've ever had an actual Payday board. I don't know that I would even know that Payday was a board game if it wasn't for that GBA collection. But then there's even others that I didn't have as a kid. I had those two, the Life Yahtzee Payday and Candyland Chutes and Ladders in Memory. I had both those as a kid, which is why I'm familiar with them. But I know there's others. There's like one with Connect 4 on it. There's one with Trouble. There might be one with Battleship on it. So games like that could be very, very short. And in fact, if I had Life Yahtzee Payday on hand right now, I might go ahead and do that, but I don't know where my copy of that is currently. I probably do know, I just have to go get it. I just don't want to go get it right now. Because we still got other short games to do, because we're doing this right now, and if I have time after, we could do like Mario Advance is probably a pretty good one to do. Because that's just what, you start in World 1, obviously. And then in, what, 1-3, there's the warp to World 4? And then I think World 4 has a warp to World 6, but I wouldn't take that because World 6 sucks. So what I would do is I would beat World 4 normally and go to World 5 and use the warp in 5-1, I think. Which actually, if I'm doing Mario Advance and not the original Mario 2, I wouldn't do that actually. I would actually use the warp in World 4 to take me to World 6, save and quit the game. And because there's a level select in the game, I could just go back to World 5. 5-1, I think it is. And take that warp. And then I don't have to complete World 4. And then go straight to World 7 and just beat Warp. So that actually would be quicker to do Mario Advance 1 than it would be doing actual Mario 2. Because I don't really know exactly how I'm going to do with like ports and remakes and remasters and stuff. I think for the most part remasters probably shouldn't count as separately. But I don't know about like certain ports or different versions or remakes. Like how different do they have to be to count as a separate game? And if some don't count as separate versions of games, then there actually would be some versions of games that maybe aren't the best versions of the game to play casually, but would be faster to do. Like, of all the versions of Pac-Man World, the fastest, easiest version of the game is the Game Boy Advance version, not Repack or the original PS1 version. I don't think any version of Pac-Man World 1 would take too long. My only problem with the original version of Pac-Man World 1 on PS1, the PS1 version, my problem with that would be Anubis Rex, really. And then Repack is fine. I just think the movement's a little slower in Repack than it is in the original Pac-Man World. But the GBA version has less levels in it. And the levels are pretty short. It's not like they're any longer than in the original game. So I think, let me take my headphones off for a bit. But I think Pac-Man World on GBA, it has less levels. I don't think you have to beat all the levels. I think you can just straight up skip the clown levels. I think the game doesn't force you to finish those. And there's just less levels in the game overall. There's only 2 space levels. There's no factory levels. I think there's only 2 ghost levels. So the GBA version would be the best version of Pac-Man World 1. And then, on a similar note, I'm pretty sure the Nintendo 64 version of Ms. Pac-Man Maze Madness would be the faster version of Maze Madness, because I think it's missing some levels compared to the PS1 version. But again, I just remembered there's also a GBA version of Maze Madness. And it depends on how many levels the GBA version has compared to the N64 version. I might still do the N64 version instead, because I know the N64 version probably has the same level layouts and same like solutions to all the puzzles that the PS1 version has. And I'm more familiar with the PS1. The PS1 version's the version of that game I'm the most familiar with. So I might purposefully do the N64 version so that I know I can beat it, unlike the GBA version. I think the biggest thing, though, that I'm wondering for games that should be quick and easy to beat is going to be racing games. How do you define beating a racing game? Wouldn't it just be every cup? For the most part, unless if it has a story mode, right? Sonic Riders has a story mode. Obviously, you would beat story mode. I'm still unsure about how to deal with multiple stories. I think you would... For Sonic Riders, I think you would definitely beat both stories, because they're both different stories, actually, whereas, like, Freedom Planet is kind of a little more awkward, because it's the same story told from different perspectives, but you're not missing any of the story if you only were to do Lilac's story. Whereas Sonic Riders, the story, I don't think you actually get the real ending, unless if you do both of the stories. But if a racing game has a story mode, then yeah, you would just do the story mode. But wouldn't a racing game that doesn't have a story mode, wouldn't just all the cups be sufficient enough? Maybe you have to win every cup. I could see that being a good target. You know, instead of just playing through all of them, because obviously the goal is to beat games, which means you want to win. You're not winning if you don't, you know, win every cup. But that would be sufficient, right? Especially because most games will give you the credits after you beat all the cups. Mario Kart 64, I believe, does that. Mario Kart Wii does that. Pac-Man World Rally does that. So I think saying that doing all cups is beating a racing game, I don't think that's too odd to say. You know, I think most people would consider that, or else is a racing game just endless? Can no one ever beat any racing game? I understand that there are some games that are actually endless and you can't beat, but I feel like racing games, it's generally understood that if you say you beat a racing game, you beat every cup, and you probably won every cup in first place. So I think I am probably going to go with that definition, unless if again the racing game has a story mode or some other way of beating it, because I know. Right, that was the really annoying cycle I was worried about, but I had a damage boost, so that was fine. Though I could be doing this faster if I was damage boosting here, and if I was doing an actual speedrun, I would want to damage boost there. I don't know, I know there are quite a few racing games that do have story modes. Well, not quite a few, but there's a few I know that have story modes where you would have to beat the story mode. There's the Crash Racing games have story modes. The Sonic Riders games have story modes. I think most of the Sonic Racing games do. I think even Team Sonic Racing has a story mode. So I would count those as doing the story mode. Whereas, like, Mario Kart Wii, most of the Mario Karts, I would pretty much just say, beat every cup. And since we're doing normal difficulty, I would say just 100cc. Though, for Mario Kart Wii, it would honestly just be better to do 150cc, because that'd be faster. Now, with Mario Kart 64's rubber banding, I went too early on that hit. With Mario Kart 64's rubber banding, I don't know that I would purposefully do 150cc. I would probably just stick to 100cc. But yeah, definitely including racing games makes kind of a lot more games viable. But yeah, that is now 12 games beaten. Which means, how many games have we done today? We did... yeah, the 3 SNES games. Super Mario Land and Huge Adventure. Which means that's 5 games. So now... obviously, the next goal would be to just beat another game, and Super Mario Advance shouldn't be that long. I can probably do that pretty quickly, pretty efficiently.